I had these two guys that were following me. They were following me and I was walking by myself. It was night. And I realized that they were following me. And so I had to go, in these different directions and try to hide from them so they didn't see where I was living. And it was crazy because once I thought that I lost them, I finally got to the door and I opened the door, and then the least exciting?
Probably nothing.
No, the digital nomad life is so incredible. I would say the least exciting is like, why are you traveling? Why? If you're not interested in learning more about the culture and really immersing yourself, I suppose just seeing the sights and the food is enough for some people. It's not for me. It's not. No, I said I want to have a more intimate relationship with the countries that I visit. I do.
Right.
One way to put it, I suppose. What
is the most interesting thing about a culture for you? Like the history, the places?
I would say, I want to just say everything. People interest me the most.
Mm-hmm.
So, and their way of life. So I want to meet a local, and I want to know what is the average day like. As for example, when I was in Albania, in Tirana, let's just say in the capital, what's an average day like for someone here who is from here? Those are the things that actually interest me the most. And and in a day, it's like, okay, what are you eating? Where do you go to work? How do you travel? How do you get around?
That's a pretty good approach. Do you ask questions, or do you just observe to draw these conclusions?
I ask questions. Okay. Yeah. I really, I'm not, I would say I'm not a shy person.
Mm-hmm.
You get a little nervous.
It helps
I would
a lot.
say, yeah, it does help. It does help. I do get a little bit nervous because especially I don't know the language, and I'm going to sound, and I'm going to, people might laugh at me. I would, but you just have to take it lightly and have fun with it. And people will pick up on that good energy.
That's quite good. Tell me a little bit about some of the places you visited. I know Albania is one of them.
I love Albania. I love the Balkans. I mean, yeah, so I actually lived in the Balkans, in Albania more so for over a month by myself.
Wow.
But I went there, and this is kind of funny.
There?
So when I was waiting for my visa and the visa process of Spain, you can only be in the Schengen area for a certain amount of days, and I was kind of getting close to the days until I would technically be an illegal. So we call it country hop. I think that's a term that a lot of people use. So I had to country hop and to make sure that I had some extra time to get more paperwork, and then I would go back to Spain, once I had a certain amount. And so, yeah, it was a forced trip, but nonetheless, one of the most amazing ones of my life because, again, it was so opposite from how I grew up in the United States, and also so opposite from a lot of the European countries that I had visited, or in other countries just in general. And the language too, Albanian is also very hard. I don't know what's harder, Albanian or French, but both were difficult. For example, I looked up, I remember I was on the, about to get on the plane, and I said, okay, I better learn how to say hi. I put hi in Google Translate, and it was this 20-letter word, and how you say it is përshëndetje. It's different.
It's probably harder because French has a lot of, most of the words, the vocabulary words in French have Latin roots. Mm-hmm. I know English is a Germanic language, but then over 40%, I think, of the English vocabulary has the same roots as the French terms for the same things, I would say.
Yeah, I believe so. So these roots, and I was there in the summertime, so it was very, very hot. And I had, I went to Tirana. I was in Saranda, which is by the beach. Berat is a beautiful, beautiful city. I hope I'm getting this right, but the nickname is like the city of 1,000 windows or hundreds of windows. It's something like that. Windows is there for sure, and a number. But it was a little town that I actually found extremely charming. and everyone there was so kind and overly giving. And these, when I say so generous, is these are people that don't have as much money. From the places that I have, like, let's just compare it to the U.S., right? Not nearly as much money, and yet they are more generous. So that was, yeah, it also, makes you want to cry and I'm just thinking, yeah, they don't put as much value on money. I think they definitely realize the beauty in outside of that, which I think a lot of people in the U.S. need to.
Yeah. It's a mindset. Gratitude is a mindset. It's not about you being in a position to help, but it's about having the will.
Yeah, and they would go out of their way to help me. If I seemed a little lost, they would say, "Oh, I'll go with you to this part," and I said, "No, it's okay. Like I'll find it." And they're like, "No, like you're traveling alone, and it's okay." So they really looked out for me. And these are women and men, and everyone. So I highly recommend traveling to the Balkans. And also, if anyone has seen the movie Taken, please, I think it was an Albanian mob was, kidnapped this girl in the movie. And that's actually the only connection to Albania I made, which is not realistic at all. And so when I would bring up that movie to them, they would say, "Oh, that movie ruined us. So many people were afraid to travel here because of Taken. You have to tell the people of America that it's not true." And I said, "I'm going to do it. I'm going to tell them." And I said, "They have to come here because I love all of you." So, that was interesting too. That when they told me about that, everyone from the U.S. brings up that movie and that they were actually nervous to travel there at first. I went there because I just heard good things from a few friends of mine who had been there, and it's definitely a country that's getting more and more popular over the years.
What would be another place that you've been to? Maybe you can't get to talk about all the other places, but then let's go with the top three, another top three. I don't know why I like this number.
Well, yeah. I like the number 3. This is hard. Albania is going to be one of them. And it's because I appreciate anything very different where it's going to be, I'm okay with a complete culture shock. And another country that would probably be in my top 3 would be Turkey, also because it was so different from anything that I have ever seen or experienced in my life. I went to Istanbul and Cappadocia, it's pronounced differently, but gorgeous, a completely gorgeous country. And Istanbul, I should say a little tidbit. If you're going to Istanbul by yourself as a woman, you just be a little careful. With bigger cities, you should always be a little more careful. But nonetheless, I loved Istanbul. And then in Cappadocia, for example, I had the best adventures of my life, like, riding ATVs along the country and meeting camels and meeting camels. And it was amazing. And so I liked that Turkey a lot too, because also like in Albania, because the landscapes are also just so gorgeous and different than what I had seen. And what would be a third? I would say the third is, oh my gosh, is it a tie between Italy and Greece? Is it? It might be. It might be a tie between the 3. In Italy, it's just, again, just so beautiful and some of the best food I've ever had in my life. Greece, also, the food was incredible and people were also extremely generous. That was another country where everyone was just overly giving. So, I would say those are maybe my top, but it's going to change, I'm sure, every year.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't been to Asia yet, and I'm going to start going next year.
When you travel, especially when you're not on holiday and you're still traveling, you need to have good time management for you to still enjoy your locations while working. So tell me a little bit about how you maintain productivity and a fair work-life balance while visiting different places.
Mm-hmm. So in the mornings, I will still wake up and do emails just like I would in the US. The difference is I'm scheduling the emails. And, when I mentioned earlier, it's more of a kind of a segmented type of work situation, to where if I have a list of things that I want to see in the area, I would say, all right, this is very close to me. I think about proximity. And I said, all right, this will be an experience that'll take maybe 3 hours. So maybe I would wake up and do that first, and then go back, get some writing done, get some emailing done, and then maybe I would even have time to see like a museum nearby. So on the weekdays when I'm working, I try to choose activities that I know that won't take too long, where I can literally pop out of work for a bit, go to this thing, and then either go back or I'll bring my stuff with me in a book bag, and I'll say, all right, let me go to this museum, let me go to this like a MIDI festival on the street, for example, and I'll bring my work stuff with me, and then I'm going to find a cafe ahead of time, and I'm going to make sure that cafe has internet, and I'm going to make sure that I can work there. So these are some things that kind of go through my mind and how I plan it out. The weekends is what I save for these bigger treks. So if I'm going on this mile hike up in the mountains, it doesn't really make sense to bring my work stuff with me, So these are types of weekend activity that I would have. Or if I'm stationed in a certain city in a country and I want to see another city, maybe that'll be the weekend activity that I do.
Mm-hmm. What's the most exciting part of traveling, and probably the least as well?
Well, the most exciting for me, again, is seeing how other people live. That has always been very interesting to me. And then the least exciting?
Probably nothing.
No, the digital nomad life is so incredible. I would say the least exciting is like lugging your luggage around. But if you learn how to pack light, it's not so bad. But it's not even that bad.
Okay.
Or I can maybe think of some. It's if you're doing some last minute trips, it can be sometimes stressful finding a place when you're on a specific budget, right? Because things will tend to be a little pricier when you're booking like the night before and it's a very impromptu trip.
Right.
You get used to it though. And, but yeah, I would say there's nothing that has just been clawing at my brain, because if there was something and it made me feel a certain negative way for a while, I wouldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there are some cons, but it's nothing that bothers me.
Right.
What
drives you to your destinations?
I always like to go somewhere. I do. First thing is, have I been here before? I want to go somewhere new, normally. Unless it's like a trip that a friend plans and they just really want you to go. And they'll say, oh yeah, I've been here, but I love it. And I'll go there again, fine. But if it's by myself, I want it to be somewhere new. I want it to be very, again, different. So Albania was really different. Turkey was really different. I know when I go to Asia, that's going to be, again, a 180 from what I know, for sure. So that's another thing I look for. As a digital nomad, when you're working, you have to at least stay somewhere with internet. That's a must. So it's not like you do have to adjust to that. And that's fine, though. Every country is going to have a main city that's going to have internet. So for the most part. So there's
a quick digression.
Uh-huh.
As a digital nomad, do you ever go on holiday? It looks as if you're...
I don't really have to. Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
It looks like you're always on holiday.
It does look like that. Yeah. Or, that's what I share too. Most of the time when I'm sharing things, it's mostly like travel stuff. But I'm going to share more about the actual working part of it too, because people have been curious about that. And usually when you share stuff, you just want to share the fun. Here's some fun stuff that I did, right? But I said, okay, I should be, if I'm going to share more, if people really want to learn more about the digital nomad life from me, okay, then yes, I have to get into the the business part of it and things like that, and how I started the small business and how I maintain it. Yeah, these are important things.
Back to how you choose your destinations.
Yeah, how I choose my destinations. So new, different, there has to be internet, and that's really it. That is it. I think that some people really do a lot of research into the country that they go to. Maybe I should. Maybe I should do a little bit more. For example, I'm a woman traveling alone. You should look into the safety. And this is just anybody, look into, make sure that you're going to feel safe enough. I don't always do that, which I don't recommend, by the way. But I think it's like my personality type. I think I was not born with that fear gene as much. Mm-hmm. So I'm very much the type where I say, "Oop, I'm ready to go somewhere new. All right, let me just, I'll roulette it. I'll just look at a map and I'll say, okay, here, let me see if it's if affordable enough. I'll look into things like that. How my budget is at the time, and I'll obviously need to do research into where I'm going to stay. If I have a friend there, I mean, if you have friends in different countries who have the space or don't care if you sleep on the couch, go for that first, obviously. And so, and that's another thing that I've gained a lot is the more that I travel, I meet so many more friends from all over. And if you get close with them, they're gonna, and I never invite myself, but if they invite me and say, hey, if you ever want to come to, my home here, let me know. You always have a place to stay. And I always, say the same to them. So for example, my friend from Denmark, who I met in Madrid, actually, she wants me to go up there. She wants me to go up there as soon as possible this year. So I'm going to try to do that for a little bit. And that'll actually be a short trip. But luckily, I have someone who's from there who would show me around.
Are your destinations mostly influenced by external, let's say what you see on social media or recommendations?
No.
No, okay.
Yeah, okay.
You told me you just think about a place and then you check things up. So I think
I think that I have, again, I think it's my personality type. There are the friends that definitely will say, I saw this on TikTok, I saw this on Instagram, mm-hmm. I must go there because it looks amazing. I see that and I definitely get inspired by that, mm-hmm. but I actually haven't chosen a destination based on something I saw on social media. Recommendations, yes. Okay. So a lot of the times, say on Instagram, I'll ask questions about certain areas or, where should I go next? And then that's how I went to the Balkans. That's because I said I got to go to a non-Schengen area for a bit so I don't become illegal. And
do you prefer off the beaten path places to popular places?
Yeah, for sure. I like the off the beaten path route. I do like touristy things too. When I went to Italy, I've been there a few times now, but I had to see the Leaning Tower of Pisa, for example. Mm-hmm. Of course I had to see that, and different landmarks, but most of the time I'll have a little bit of that, sprinkles of that, no matter where I'm at. And then I also like to leave a lot of room for letting the locals guide what I do. So when I talk to the locals, I'll say, what are things that tourists wouldn't know about? Where should I go and where should I eat? Things for entertainment, for food, etc. So I really enjoy this concept. I don't even know if this is a proper term or anything, but like local guided trips.
Okay, that's good.
Again, I'm a free spirit. And when I go, a lot of the times it is an impromptu trip. And a lot of the times I was like, I'm here and wherever I'm staying, I will talk to the close, whoever's from the country and is closest to me and just start gathering information. You eat somewhere, they're going to, you talk to them and you get that information. So that's what I do. In terms of my local guided trips, it's through, I get the intel through conversations. I've never hired a local guide actually, but they do have, the companies like Viator and Get Your Guide. Those are helpful in terms of just getting ideas of what to do. They have the touristy stuff, but then they do have some interesting treks on there as well, cooking classes. So those are two sources that I do like to go to when I don't know what to do. when I don't know anything about the country, in addition to talking to the locals.
Okay.
Yeah.
How impromptu are your trips? Tell me a little bit about how close your decisions to travel are to the departure most of the time.
This year, when I said I gotta leave Spain for a bit because I realized that I have to be mindful about my days. I think I made that decision and left to the Balkans within a week. And then that happened again later because I came back to Spain, and then things got lost in the mail for my visa twice. So that extended this wait period, and I had to country hop again. And I said, I guess I'm going to the UK. And it was, I swear, I had to make that decision, and it was like within a week. But if it's a friend, for example, the friend that I wants me to visit Denmark, that's an easy impromptu decision, And I was like, oh, okay. So if I find a cheap flight there, affordable flight, and a free place to stay, yeah, that's an easy decision for me. Where I could book it today and leave tomorrow, and stay with her for, I don't know. I don't want to overstay my welcome. I never like to overstay my welcome, but like a few days. I'm not sure.
Okay. Have you ever had any terrific experience at a place, things not going as planned, and you questioning the necessity of being there and ever keeping up with these impromptu trips?
Well, I did have a somewhat scary experience, I will say. And it is important to bring up when women travel alone, because even though it is very exciting, I will stress, you need to make sure that you feel safe. And maybe my bar is a little higher in terms of the amount that I can handle, because I lived in New York City for a while. So maybe I don't have a good, maybe my version of what normal is a little off. I don't know. Probably. So, when I traveled to Istanbul, which is, I think I mentioned this a little earlier, I had these two guys that were following me. They were following me, and I was walking by myself. It was night. And I realized that they were following me. And so I had to go, in these different directions and try to hide from them so they didn't see where I was living. And it was crazy because once I thought that I lost them, I finally got to the door and I opened the door, and then they were just smoking their cigarettes on the side, just creepily looking at me. I said, oh my gosh, now they know where I am staying. And so that night I actually called two friends of mine who were there at the same time. And I said, can you just come by and check out where I'm staying? It was an Airbnb at the time. And they went to visit me, and they said, yeah, Camille, you're not staying here. Wow. You're not staying here by yourself. It was just the block in particular that was a little sketchy. The area outside of it, I actually felt very safe in the daytime, and it was very pretty and interesting looking. But this particular block, I didn't know. I didn't do the research, and so it's my own fault. But yeah, luckily that was the only time something like that happened where I actually felt uncomfortable. And and people do need to talk about these types of experience that you might have traveling alone. And you could have this with a friend too, but especially alone. But luckily that was the only time.
We probably have aspiring digital nomads watching us. So what would be maybe a very essential tip that you can share with them?
Hone in on your skills that make sense in the digital world.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely writing is a huge one. If you're good at design, graphic design is another. There are so many things that you can do for work to be a digital nomad, but hone in on those skills and learn how to pitch yourself. Because if you're going to be a freelancer, or if you're going to have an LLC, you need to make sure that you maintain the digital nomad lifestyle and like clients, gigs. So also learn how to be a master at pitching yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing that I would say.
One untold truth about being a digital nomad.
My first thought was actually, I want to go the fun route, but this is the first thing, so I guess I'll say it, is it's both. The dating life can be extremely fun, but it could also be difficult. And I think that it's probably not a surprise that it could be a little difficult when you're hopping around from country to country, that it's very hard to maintain a relationship that is committed. So keep that in mind, people. If once you're going to start doing this, that you might meet someone and it might work out, but it is harder. It is harder when you're just traveling a lot, and that's for anyone. Even someone's in a career where they have to travel, like actors, for example. It's hard.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is an extremely fulfilling dating life as well, because you're again learning from all these people. They're going to take you on adventures a lot of the time. So it's a lot of the times I feel like it's a movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll say that, but it's not for everyone, and especially when you're in your 30s, you got to be a little more mindful if you're going to start this kind of life in your 30s, and if you want a family one day, it's going to be a little more difficult, perhaps.
Yeah. I guess it's a temporary thing, right? How long do you think it will be? It could be. I don't want to focus too much on you, asking you in your case, but then as in general, how long do you think the digital nomad thing can last?
You could have it forever, because you could always have a home base. You could have a home base and maybe work from there most of the time if you if you do have a relationship where you have to stay in an area, or say if you're taking care of a family member, for example. But then you always have that freedom to say, all right, I'm going to take 2 weeks away from this home base and go to this other country for a while. So I don't think that there's this deadline to it. The hard part is being able to maintain it financially. Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm,
I think
I'd say.
dating wise, ideally, it would be having a nomad partner.
That would be great. That would be perfect, would it not? Yeah. And they actually have, I think there's a dating app now for that, for nomads finding nomads. Yeah. Or if someone doesn't mind moving to another country, if they're completely open to that, great. Because, sure, you can meet someone and move there, but then you obviously have to learn the rules of what it's going to take to get a visa there. And it's different in every country. And it is hard. It's a lot of paperwork, and it's very tedious, and I would assume anywhere. For me, if something that never crossed my mind, and again, maybe this is something that would really resonate with the women, especially in their 30s, is I never really thought about, if I were to meet someone and actually start something serious, to where I met someone and I said, okay, I would want a family with them. I never thought about what it would be like to raise a family away from away from the US, and how that would make me feel. Because I'm a very in the now thinker, and I was just very into my work and the travel, and that's about it. So yeah, depending on your situation, if you're someone who's going to start this life in like a woman in her 30s, these are things that you think about it. Just think about it if you were to meet somebody, because these are actually really big decisions and big feelings that you might have later on,
Okay.
Yeah.
Professionally, you also have a media and branding company. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing there in this context.
Yes, so I founded a boutique public relations firm a handful of years ago called Evolus Media, and we offer PR services such as like media relations and copywriting and media coaching, and everything is done online. So it is a digital nomad friendly company, and there are times where I need to be in places in person at times, depending on the client, or maybe a meeting will have to be in person, but I'm very transparent about where I'm at with every client, so they know if there is going to be a difference in the time zone. But I make sure that I always adjust to what works for their time zone. If that means I have to be working late, then I will do it. Because again, the gifts that I get from that they're worth it to me. Yeah, I was like, I'm okay having a call at 10 p.m. if that means that I can, go see this new city for a weekend, whatever it may be. Yeah. So, yeah, I don't mind.
That's fine. I'll add the links in the description. I guess we have to wrap it up now. But we didn't talk about Spain. How did you find yourself here?
Oh, yes. So when I was doing a little mini Euro trip last year, I fell in love with Spain. It was actually my first time visiting Spain. And I knew that I wanted to have an experience of like living in a European country for a while. And I decided on Spain because I said I could get by with the language. You know, my Spanish is good enough. I'm half Puerto Rican. So there was that. And it also felt like getting in touch with my roots actually a little bit as well. And yeah, and just because it's beautiful and I fell in love with the people as well, because people in Spain, they are just so fun and friendly.
Yeah.
It's just, you gotta love it. You gotta love it.
Yeah.
And at least, you know, that's been my experience. So yeah, it was just kind of I just wanted something new from New York City at the time. I remember after COVID, the crime actually went up. I didn't feel as safe there. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted something different. And so that's when I started brainstorming about where to go next. And through this mini trip that I did, I just decided on Spain.
How is your Spanish?
It's good. It's good enough, I would say. But I still take classes. So I'm in maybe like a mid-level at this point. And, you know, I could like go on dates, for example, if I wanted to and get by. But because I think there are 10 tenses in Spanish. So I still mess them up all the time. I still mess them up, but yeah.
I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I think the English grammar is quite easy compared to the Spanish grammar.
It's the conjugation that gets me in Spanish, but in English, the spelling is harder because of these silent letters that exist and probably the pronunciation as well. Mm-hmm. So yeah, pros and cons to each language for sure.
Right. Well, it was good having you. Thanks for coming. I'll probably have you later on if you're up.
Thank you so much for having me, and hopefully the listeners get inspired to learn more about the digital nomad life and take the leap. If you have the opportunity, take the leap.